Stood in the shadowed corner of the studio, clutching a bouquet of roses, my heart pounding with the surprise I planned for Amelia. Then her voice sliced through the silence from the recording booth. "He's just my safety net. I have found someone who makes my heart race." That confession shattered me, but her next words turned my world to ash. The roses trembled in my grip, their petals brushing against my calloused fingers, a stark contrast to the polished chaos of the Portland recording studio. I was a 30-year-old sound engineer, used to shaping raw noise into perfection, but nothing prepared me for this. Amelia, my fiancée, the woman I poured every ounce of my soul into, was in that booth, her voice clear through the glass. I had come here at midnight, after a grueling 14-hour shift, to give her these flowers and a CD, a custom mix of our engagement vows, recorded in this very studio, meant to be a pre-wedding gift. One day before we were supposed to say forever, I edged closer, my sneakers silent on the hardwood floor. The booth door was ajar, a sliver of light spilling out. Amelia laughed, a sound I used to cherish, now sharp as a blade. I leaned in, my breath catching, and heard her again. "Ryan gets it. He knows I need more than a guy who works himself to death for a paycheck." Ryan, my coworker, my friend, the guy I had shared beers with after late sessions. His low chuckle followed. "You deserve to live, Amelia. Do not let him cage you." My chest tightened, like someone had cranked the volume on my heartbeat. I wanted to barge in, to scream, to demand answers, but my body froze. Every late night gig she took, every secretive glance at her phone, every time she brushed off my questions with a smile, it all clicked. I had been blind, too busy mixing tracks and saving for our wedding to see the truth. The CD in my pocket felt like a lead weight, our vows now a cruel joke. Then came a final blow. Amelia's voice dropped, smug and satisfied. "I'm already living. With him." My knees buckled. I gripped the wall, the roses slipping, a few petals fluttering to the floor like dying stars. She was not just talking about feelings. She was admitting to betrayal, to nights I thought she was performing, to moments I was grinding through overtime to pay for her dreams. Ryan's laugh echoed again, and I pictured his smug grin, the one he wore when he thought he had one. A surge of rage burned through the shock. I could have stormed in, let the flowers hit the ground, and confronted them. But something colder took over. I needed her to know I had heard, to feel the weight of her own words. I stepped into the control room, the dim glow of the mixing board casting shadows. My hand shook as I set the roses on the console, their red vivid against the black metal. I pulled a sticky note from the desk, scribbled one line. I heard everything. I placed the CD next to it, the plastic case glinting like a discarded promise. Leaving was harder than I expected. Each step toward the exit felt like wading through quicksand, my mind replaying her words on a loop. "I'm already living. With him." The studio door clicked shut behind me, and the night air hit my face, sharp and unforgiving. I climbed in my truck, the engine roaring to life, and drove aimlessly through Portland streets. Neon signs blurred past, their colors bleeding into my thoughts. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I swallowed? I ended up at a dive bar, the kind with sticky floors and a jukebox stuck on old country tunes. The whiskey burned my throat, but did not dull the ache. My phone buzzed. "Amelia. 3 missed calls already." She must have found the note, the roses, the CD. I ignored it, my fingers hovering over a form app instead. At 3 a.m., alone in a bar that smelled of regret, I typed out my story, pouring my broken heart into words for strangers to read. The betrayal, the roses, the note. I hit post, my chest heaving, needing anyone to understand. Another buzz. A text from Wes, my best friend. "Dude, what is going on? Amelia just called me, freaking out." I typed back. "It is over. At a bar. Talk tomorrow." He replied instantly. "Stay safe. My place is open. Wes, always there, no questions asked." I thought of my sister Nora, who had warned me about Amelia's glitz, saying she was too dazzling to be real. I had laughed it off. Now her words haunted me. The bar's clock ticked past closing. I paid my tab, the whiskey still bitter on my tongue, and stepped into the night. Amelia's calls kept coming, 12 now, but I silenced my phone. The moon hung low, its light cold and distant, mocking the oath we had made beneath it. I was 30, 1 day from married, and now I had nothing but a truck, a shattered heart, and a sticky note that changed everything. Before we dive deeper into this roller coaster of a story, let me know where you are tuning in from. If this hits you as hard as it hit me, hit that subscribe button to support more. Tales like this. The whiskey's burn lingered in my throat as I left the bar, Amelia's 12 missed calls glowing on my phone like accusations. I had exposed her betrayal with a single note in the studio, but now, at 4 a.m., the real fight began. I was not going to let her steal my life along with my heart. Portland streets were empty, the moon still mocking me from above. My truck's engine hummed as I drove to Wes's apartment, my only refuge. My best friend opened the door, his eyes bleary but sharp with concern. I crashed on his couch, the springs digging into my back, and told him everything. Amelia's words in the studio, Ryan's laugh, the roses I left behind. Wes listened, his jaw tight, then handed me a beer. He shared his own story of betrayal years ago, a girlfriend who had cheated with his cousin. His words grounded me, a reminder I was not alone. By sunrise, my phone showed 52 missed calls from Amelia and a flood of texts, her tone shifting from frantic to pleading. I ignored them all, my mind racing. I had saved every dime for our wedding, worked 14-hour shifts to fund her music career, and now she was living with someone else. I needed to act fast to protect what was mine before she spun a new lie. I called in sick to the studio, my first absence in years, and headed to the bank at 9 a.m. The teller's sympathetic glance met my bloodshot eyes as I transferred $10,000 from our joint account to a new one in my name. I left enough for rent and utilities, not out of kindness, but to avoid legal trouble. I canceled our shared credit card, redirected my paychecks, and changed every password. It took 3 hours, each click a step toward freedom, but my chest still ached like I was carving out a piece of myself. Wes met me for lunch at a diner, his usual grin replaced by focus. He pulled out his laptop and showed me screenshots he had taken from Amelia's public Instagram stories, posted carelessly after I left the studio. One showed her at a bar with Ryan, their shoulders touching, time-stamped at 1 a.m. Another was Ascot, a receipt for a $1,500 Airbnb stay in Seattle, dated 3 weeks ago, when Amelia claimed she was at a gig. My stomach churned. This was not a one-time slip. She had been betraying me for months, using our money to fund her secret life. Wes's voice was steady as he promised to keep digging, his loyalty a lifeline in my chaos. That afternoon, I met a lawyer in a cramped downtown office, paying $500 for a consultation. She was blunt, her pen tapping as she explained how to void our engagement contract. Evidence of infidelity could protect my assets, but I needed a paper trail. She advised texting Amelia to create a record. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over my phone, then sent one message. "I know everything. Stop contacting me." Her reply came instantly, a wall of excuses, but I muted her number, my heart pounding. The lawyer's words echoed. "Document everything." Back at the apartment I shared with Amelia, I installed 2 small cameras in the living room and kitchen, legal since my name was on the lease. I avoided our bedroom, the space where we had planned our future, now tainted. The cameras were my insurance, a way to catch her if she tried to take more than her share. That night, alone on Wes's couch, I checked the footage. My breath caught as I saw Amelia enter at 2 p.m., her movements frantic. She grabbed the vintage speaker from our shelf, a gift from our first anniversary, its walnut finish gleaming. She glanced around, as if sensing eyes on her, then left with it tucked under her arm. My fists clenched. That speaker was not just wood and wires. It was us, our late-night jam sessions, our laughter. She was stealing memories, and I was done letting her. Nora, my sister, called that evening, her voice sharp with anger. Amelia had reached out to her, claiming I had abandoned her without reason. Nora shut her down, telling her to back off, but warned me Amelia was spinning the same story to our parents and mutual friends. I felt a chill. She was building a narrative to paint me as the villain. I told Nora about the cameras, the Airbnb receipt, the Instagram posts. She promised to rally our family, her fierce loyalty a shield. Our mother called later, her voice breaking as she said she had never trusted Amelia's charm. Dad texted, offering to cover legal fees if needed. Their support was a flicker of warmth in my cold rage. The next day, I confronted Ryan via text, keeping it short. "I know about you and Amelia. I have proof. Expect consequences." His reply was a weak denial, claiming it was a misunderstanding, but I ignored it. Wes reported Ryan had been dodging him at the studio, his usual swagger gone. I sensed his panic, and it fueled me. Amelia's calls kept coming, 78 by day 3, but I stayed silent, my resolve hardening. By day 8, I devised a plan. I would host a fake engagement party at a swanky Portland bar, inviting our parents, Wes, Nora, and a few shared friends. I told everyone it was a pre-wedding celebration, but Amelia would walk into a trap. I had copied the studio's audio of her betrayal onto a USB drive, a secret weapon to play when the moment was right. The thought of her face, hearing her own words, sent a dark thrill through me. I was not just protecting myself. I was reclaiming my truth. Each night, I lay on Wes's couch, the city's hum outside a distant pulse. The speaker's absence haunted me, a symbol of everything she had taken. But I was not broken. I was building a case, brick by brick, and Amelia would face the consequences. The bar was booked, the USB ready, and my heart, though shattered, beat with purpose. The USB drive burned in my pocket as I stood in the dimly lit Portland bar, the fake engagement party about to begin. I had spent 8 days building a fortress of evidence against Amelia's betrayal, and tonight, her lies would face the music. My heart raced, not with fear, but with a cold resolve to reclaim my truth. The bar was upscale, its polished wood and soft jazz a cruel contrast to the storm inside me. I had invited our parents, Wes, Nora, and 3 mutual friends, all under the guise of celebrating our wedding, set for tomorrow. The guests arrived, their smiles tight, sensing something off. My mother's eyes lingered on me, her hands squeezing my arm. Dad nodded, silent but steady. Nora scanned the room, her jaw set, ready to back me up. Wes stood by the bar, his casual stance hiding the USB drive's weight in our plan. Amelia's parents, Henry and Vivian, arrived last. Henry's warm handshake a reminder of his fondness for me. Vivian's cool glance betraying her preference for her daughter's charm. Amelia walked in at 7 p.m., her presence a jolt. She wore the emerald dress I had bought for her birthday, its shimmer catching the bar's lights. Her smile was practiced, but her eyes darted, searching for clues. She approached me, her hand grazing my arm, her voice soft with false relief. I nodded, guiding her to the center table, my stomach twisting at her touch. The guests gathered, their chatter fading as I raised a glass, thanking them for coming to celebrate our love. Amelia's smile widened, oblivious to the trap. I set my glass down and nodded to Wes. He slipped behind a bar sound system, plugging in the USB drive. My pulse hammered as I spoke, my voice steady but low. I said we had a special recording to share, a moment from our journey. The speakers crackled, and Amelia's voice filled the room, sharp and unmistakable. He's just my safety net. I have found someone who makes my heart race. The bar fell silent, glasses frozen in hands. Amelia's face drained of color, her eyes wide with panic. I'm already living. With him. The words echoed, each one a blade, her betrayal laid bare for all to hear. She lunged toward the bar, stammering that the audio was fake, edited, a cruel prank. Wes stepped forward, his voice calm but firm, explaining he had pulled the file directly from the studio's archives. I pressed play on my phone, displaying screenshots of her Instagram with Ryan, their closeness undeniable. Then came the Airbnb receipt, $1,500 for a Seattle getaway she had called a gig. Finally, I showed the camera footage from our apartment, Amelia slipping out with our vintage speaker, her glance furtive. The room's silence was suffocating, broken only by Vivian's sharp gasp. Amelia's composure shattered. She accused me of spying, of twisting the truth, her voice rising to a desperate pitch. Nora cut her off, her tone icy, pointing out the evidence was undeniable. I stayed silent, letting the facts speak. Then Amelia's defiance cracked. She sank into a chair, her hands trembling, and admitted everything. The affair with Ryan had lasted 6 months. She had planned to leave me after securing our savings, using the wedding as a cover. Her voice broke, but her words lacked remorse, only regret at being caught. Henry stood, his face etched with pain, and walked out without a word, his footsteps heavy. Vivian followed, pausing to hiss at Amelia that she had ruined everything, her daughter's facade crumbling. Our friends mumbled excuses, their chairs scraping as they left, their eyes avoiding mine. My mother's hand found mine, her grip fierce, while Dad's steady gaze anchored me. Nora stayed close, her presence a shield. Wes remained by the bar, his nod a silent vow of loyalty. I pulled a manila envelope from my jacket, the contract to void our engagement, prepared by my lawyer. I slid it across the table to Amelia, my voice low. I told her to be out of our apartment by tomorrow night. She stared at the envelope, her eyes glassy, but took it, her fingers shaking. I turned and walked out, the bar's warmth fading into the cool night air. The moon hung above, its light no longer mocking but indifferent, a witness to my rebirth. Outside, I leaned against my truck, the USB drive still in my pocket, its weight gone. The confrontation had been a fire, burning away the last of my illusions. I had expected triumph, but instead felt a hollow ache, the cost of truth heavier than I imagined. Nora joined me, her hand on my shoulder, saying nothing. Wes followed, offering a quiet promise to grab beers later. Their presence was enough, a reminder I was not alone. I drove back to Wes's apartment, the city's lights blurring past. Amelia's admission replayed in my mind, not as a victory, but a scar. I had exposed her, but the man I was, the one who loved her, was gone too. Tomorrow, I would face the wreckage of our life. But tonight, I let the night swallow me, my heart beating with a new, uncertain rhythm. The bar's echoes faded as I drove away from the confrontation. Amelia's tear-streaked face burned into my memory. I had dismantled her lies with a single USB drive, but the victory was hollow. Now, standing in the wreckage of our almost marriage, I faced the harder task, rebuilding myself. The next morning, I returned to our apartment, the air heavy with the ghost of her perfume. I packed her remaining belongings, each item a reminder of our shattered vows. A scarf she wore on our first date, a half-empty coffee mug with her lipstick stain. I left them in boxes outside the door, my hand steady, but my heart unsteady. The lawyer's contract ensured I kept my savings, the evidence of Amelia's infidelity, sparing me financial ruin. The wedding was canceled, the $4,000 deposit a painful but necessary loss. I moved to a smaller apartment near the studio, its bare walls and city view a blank slate for a new chapter. Work became my anchor. The studio, once a place of betrayal, transformed into a sanctuary. My boss noticed my focus, and 3 months later, I was promoted to lead sound engineer. The raise meant shorter hours, a chance to breathe. I traded late shifts for early mornings, jogging along Portland's waterfront, the river's rhythm soothing my frayed nerves. Wes joined me sometimes, his banter a steady pulse against my silence. He suggested I try guitar, a hobby he swore would heal. I bought a secondhand acoustic, its strings rough under my fingers, and spent nights strumming chords, each note a step away from the past. Nora invited me for Sunday dinners, her kitchen warm with the smell of roasted chicken. She shared her own story of overcoming a toxic relationship, her words raw but hopeful. My mother sent a new speaker, a sleek model to replace the one Amelia stole, with a note saying she believed in me. Dad called weekly, asking about mixes and gigs, his gruff voice a quiet strength. Their support stitched together the holes in my heart, but some wounds lingered. Late at night, I scrolled through old photos on my phone, pausing on one of Amelia under the moon, her smile now a stranger's. 5 months after the bar, I found a crumpled note in a jacket pocket, tucked away since the studio night. I heard everything. My own handwriting, sharp with rage, stared back. I sat on my apartment's balcony, the city's hum below, and felt a jolt. I had not listened to the CD I left with the roses, the one with our vows. Curiosity, or maybe masochism, drove me to my storage box. The disc was there, scratched but intact. I slipped it into my laptop, my pulse quickening. My voice played first, promising to love her forever. Then hers, soft and certain, swearing the same. The sound twisted in my gut, a cruel reminder of her lies. I stopped the track, my hands shaking, and tossed the CD into the trash. That moment was a quiet climax, a final severing of the man I had been. Amelia's life unraveled as mine steadied. Wes heard through studio gossip that she lost her recording contract, her voice no longer in demand. She moved to her parents' home in Vancouver, Washington, a 20-minute drive, but a world away. Ryan had cut contact, blocking her after she showed up at his apartment, drunk and pleading, according to a mutual friend. Her downfall stirred no joy in me, only a faint sadness for the woman I thought I knew. 6 months after the reckoning, I ran into Amelia at a bakery near my studio. The bell above the door chimed as I entered, the scent of fresh bread grounding me. She stood at the counter, her hair pulled back, working as a cashier. Her face was thinner, her eyes tired, a far cry from the stage star I once loved. She froze when she saw me, her hands fumbling a paper bag. I ordered a coffee, my voice calm, and she nodded, avoiding my gaze. As she handed me the cup, she spoke, her voice low, saying she was in therapy trying to